You're listening to the Two Tongues Podcast. And now your hosts, Kyle and Chris.
Welcome back, one and all, to another episode of the Two Tongues Podcast. Jumping in here for a quick intro to let you know our ordinary podcast time this weekend was used to participate in the Onion Unlimited podcast. Kyle and I were visiting a good friend of the show, Daniel Torridon, on his podcast. We wanted to go ahead and just post this across his platform as well as ours. So if you've heard Daniel Torridon of the Onion Unlimited show on our podcast before, you kind of know what you're getting into. Always a fun chat. I hope you guys like it.
G'day, curious minds. Welcome back to Onion Unlimited with a special crossover edition of the Two Tongues Podcast with my mates Chris and Kyle.
I like it.
Buongiorno.
Right, how's things been?
Pretty good on our end. Anything new with you, Kyle?
No, not really. Same old.
Yeah, I told you I went back to the job I had before, so things are a little bit more easygoing on my end. I've had a little bit more time to produce more episodes on the Two Tongues podcast, so I've been grateful about that. But it's been a long time since we've talked, so I'm curious what's new with you and Mariella.
It is. Yeah, it's been ages. Really good actually. Yeah, life is A1. Really, what is it? Sucking the marrow out of life? Is it? Is that the old quotation?
Yeah.
Living deliberately. Yeah, we've got our wedding coming up in October.
Yeah.
October, yeah, which you guys would be invited to, but it's a long way to go. So we're planning for that. We're having our wedding in the backyard.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm excited for you. I can't wait. And you're still planning on streaming it, right?
I am. Yeah, we're going to do an Onion Unlimited version of the wedding. Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool actually because we met on Twitter. I proposed to her on WhatsApp, and we're getting married on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
How about the radio show that you've been doing?
Yeah, radio show's going pretty good. Yeah, again, it's kind of, I think because it's a little bit niche, because like we play a bit of music and then we talk about all kinds of like weird and wonderful things, and it's not always everybody's cup of tea, is it? So the viewing figures are not fantastic, but we have a brilliant time. We sit down every weekend and do like a 3-hour radio show with our favourite music and everything.
Do you have to have like licensing?
It's just a nice time to catch up. You do, yeah. So if you're playing copyrighted music, you have to get like a license to play copyright music over the radio, so internet radio. There's actually a platform as well you should check out called Mixcloud. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Nope.
You don't need any licensing on that. It's an on-demand service, but you can play music. And it's a bit like YouTube when anyone listens to it, but the artists get a cut of the proceeds.
Nice.
See,
I have to look into that. I would love to do that. I love music.
It's really good.
And I love like sharing music and things like that. So I might have to look into that. Get a Two Tongues radio station.
Yeah, check out Mixcloud. I mean, if you're going to be doing like a live radio show, internet radio show, check out radio.co. And that allows you to either do like a stream, a live radio stream, or it allows you to sort of go on like a 24/7 loop. You can upload stuff just to play whenever you want, music, podcast episodes, whatever. But Mixcloud, if you don't want to go down the licensing route, just go Mixcloud.
Nice.
It's really good.
I'm curious about it, Daniel, because I haven't apart from your and I last conversation, which as you told me went out on the radio in Australia, in your neck of the woods, which is really interesting, just to think of my voice playing over the airwaves down there to a bunch of strangers. But I've seen some of the posts where you're advertising the shows that you and Mariella were doing, and it was like your favorite songs from the 70s, and then the next episode was the 80s, and the next episode was the 90s. So tell me about that. How'd that go?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, we started in the 70s because I'm a 70s kid. Well, I was born in 69, so we started in the 70s, and I just basically worked through tunes of my childhood, starting with Brotherhood of Man, Save All Your Kisses for Me. Very first song I ever remember as a little kid. On the radio, yeah. And what we did is we played music. So I did like an episode of 70s, and then the next week Mariella did one. And then I did the 80s, she did the 80s, 90s, 90s. And we would just work through the decades. And it was like, do you guys find that when you hear a tune on the radio or it brings back like really strong memories?
It depends on the song, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think for me, less so than Chris. We've actually talked about this on the podcast. Chris has more of a sense of nostalgia than I do, but sometimes some things will really hit me hard. Yeah.
I'm 40% nostalgia, Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh God, I think I'm about 80% nostalgic. I'll tell you, I am so nostalgic. I've got a little glass cabinet in the corner, and it's got like versions of all the toys that I had as a kid, which I've rebought on eBay because I lost them all over the years.
Dude, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You being a musician and liking music, was your taste in music affected by being in the JW? Like, because I was raised Christian, and my musical tastes were kind of, I would say, like stifled for maybe the first 10 years of my life. And then my mom loosened up a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, stuff like growing up, it was a bit of a no-no to listen to stuff like Michael Jackson or Madonna,
Right.
Ones like that. When I sort of reached like, I don't know, probably 18, 19, I guess I did start listening to that sort of stuff. But I don't know if my parents were particularly happy about that.
So I was on vacation the last couple of days with my family down in it's like an hour and a half drive from here, but it's like a lake community. It's really touristy, but we took a little walk around the lake. It was very beautiful. And why am I telling you this? No, I had. Oh, Jesus!
That was very interesting.
I was going somewhere with that.
Nostalgia, not listening to music,
Had to do with music. For Christ's sake,
rocking out to something.
All right, listen, I'm going to come back. I'm going to circle back to that. So, Daniel, when you're doing your 70s, 80s episodes, in between songs, are you telling those stories, all those memories that you had? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Is that like the same kind?
Yeah. And I also do like each week I do what we call the quiz.
Okay.
And it's like it's where I put Mariella on the spot, and I get her to play a quiz with me.
Nice.
One of the last ones we did was did Liam Gallagher, did Liam Gallagher say this or not? Quiz.
Oh, you know what?
And it's like a list of things that Liam Gallagher may or may not have said.
A bunch of crazy shit.
And he does, doesn't he? Yeah, and his like his expletives are like off the scale, aren't they? So like I had I've got like a little buzzer like that. Don't know if you can hear that or not. Yeah, I'd be doing that all the way through, and I kept missing the beep, and the swear words kept coming through.
Listen, I just remembered what I was trying to remember a minute ago.
Quick,
Sorry,
before you forget.
When we were walking along the lake, here comes an Amish fellow.
Yeah.
You guys don't have Amish in the UK, do you?
No.
It's a distinctly American thing. Well, I know like the Anabaptists go back there. Yeah. Anyway, so if I don't know what you know about the Amish, but in any case, here comes an Amish man with his very distinct beard, no mustache, very distinct clothes, like handmade, and two of the kids, and they're riding electric scooters, right? So I see these Amish people riding by me on electric scooters. And anyway, that image popped in my head when I thought of a conservative Jehovah's Witness secretly listening to Madonna in the late 80s.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, you can't do that.
You're not allowed to do that. Yeah, well, we used to have an old dear in our JW congregation that she was like so critical about anything that had a beat in it. So like if just the slightest beat or bass guitar or something, she'd be like, well, I shouldn't be listening to that. Work to the devil. Work to the devil.
All right, and before we get too far away from
thin end of the wedge.
Before we get too far away from that glass case in your room that I can't see, what toys are in there? What toys you got in there right now?
There are in there. I've got some Matchbox cars. Yeah, I've got a couple of Playmobil characters. You know, the little figures. A couple of builders. Got a fire engine. I've got an old game of Snakes and Ladders that my dad got me when I was a little kid. That was one of the first toys he got me. He took me out for a day to a toy shop and got me Snakes and Ladders and Ludo. And I've got some old cameras as well. Actually, I've got one up here. This old camera.
Oh yeah, very cool.
Had that as a little kid.
Oh, wow.
Little Kodak camera. Yeah.
So I have a bunch of old toys myself. I don't have them on display anymore. They're in a box somewhere. I don't even know where they are anymore. But I got a bunch of toys from childhood, and some of them I did rebuy. So I'm right there with you.
See, this is where I am not that nostalgic. I don't have any of that stuff, and I have like no interest in like, you know, reacquiring any of my old toys. I like barely remember any of my old toys.
Yeah,
honestly,
that's interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's just you know.
I do this thing where sometimes I just sort of lay there at night and I just kind of go back down memory lane, like trying to relive like little steps of my life, and then all of a sudden a memory will come back that I've not thought of in like 45, 50 years, you know. It's like, I wonder if that's available on eBay still, you know.
So my wife did that to me. She mentioned some cartoon from when we were kids that I didn't remember even the slightest. It didn't jog any memories. No bells were going off. I had no idea what she was talking about. And then she goes on YouTube and she pulls up the intro music and she plays the beginning of this cartoon. And it was like somebody opened up a vault in my brain that I had forgotten, and all these memories came back. It was tremendous. It was David the Gnome. Do you remember David the Gnome?
Fuck no, I don't remember David the Gnome. Oh, if this is going to go out on the radio, do I need to not swear, David?
Daniel.
Daniel.
No,
you said David the Gnome. It messed me all up.
Daniel the Gnome. Yeah, no, you can swear as much as you like.
Right, it's hard for me not to.
Because that was the thing as well. Have you noticed as well music these days? The amount of music now that's got an E and for explicit on it.
Oh yeah.
That always used to be a rarity, didn't it? You know, like parental caution or whatever used to be a rarity on it. Now,
advisory.
you look at albums now, practically every single song on an album's explicit.
Yep. What the fuck's that about,
What's
Daniel?
that all about? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck's that about. I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna give you a hard time about one more thing. When we first started hearing you,
Go on, yeah, and then we're going to start talking about praise and blame,
yes,
aren't we?
indeed.
We are.
You said "good day," but you said it like an Aussie. When we first started,
Yeah, I'm turning into an honorary. Aussie.
Are you picking up on it? I mean, are you picking up on it like the way that they
Yeah, a
speak?
A little bit, yeah. I don't think I'll ever be full on Aussie, but I'm picking up a few of the words like "good day," awesome.
They say awesome a
word.
lot. Okay.
Awesome.
You say that a lot here too.
What are you doing tomorrow? Picking up stones in the rain. It's going to be awesome.
Do they say mate in do they say that in where you're from too?
Yeah,
mate is an English British thing too.
UK, UK and Aussie. Everyone says mate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Good day, mate.
Good day, mate.
Yeah.
You call that a knife? It's like I didn't even do an Australian accent. All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm genuinely though, guys. Right, I am loving life at the moment. Really loving life. I go, you know the story, the journey I've been through. 2019, I was in a bed sit. I'd lost everything. You know, family, home, money, job, health, everything. I literally, am I allowed to talk about suicide?
Absolutely.
Yeah. 2020, I tried to kill myself multiple times. I was just saying to Mariella yesterday, I didn't want to live. I was done. Yeah. And I just wanted to get out of living. That has so totally changed. I'm just so happy to be alive now, loving life.
I think that's
I don't want to die. I don't ever want to die. Well, you know, I'm curious about what's beyond, but I've got a thing recently. So when I tried to kill myself back in 2020, one of the occasions I tried hanging myself.
Whoa.
And I tied a rope around my neck and tied it to the back of a door on a hook. And it worked. I blacked out and I was like on the verge of dying. And at the very last minute, the hook on the back of the door broke.
Wow.
Yeah. And I hit this cold stone floor, like with some real force on my on the base of my spine. And I didn't know at the time, but I'd broken or damaged the coccyx area.
Wow, right, the tailbone.
I'd like put a crack in it. Tailbone, yeah. I didn't realise this at the time, and it's only kind of the last couple of years where I've not been in a bed sit and I haven't been laying flat. You know, I've been trying to sit on chairs that I've started noticing, and it got really, really bad recently. I could barely move. I couldn't sit for any length of time. The pain was just so bad. And I went for one of those. Have you ever had a cortisone injection?
Never.
Heard good things, but no.
I went for one of them the other day, and like they lay you flat on your stomach, and you have to sort of, you know, bare your ass and everything. And they it's quite a long needle, but it's very, very thin, and it kind of they push it in, and they try and get the needle actually between the coccyx and the sacral joint. And the needle goes in, and they put cortisone into it. It was a little bit painful. I wouldn't say, you know, it wasn't as bad as the pain I was experiencing. But the last sort of 3 or 4 days, no pain.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh my God. You know, when you've been living with pain for a while and then it just goes. It's like, it's amazing. You sort of wake up in the morning, it's, oh God, I feel good, you know?
That's part of your enthusiasm for being
It's really
alive right
good.
now, isn't it, Daniel?
Well, I think I was already feeling pretty enthusiastic and happy about life, but there was just that one little thing that was kind of like just taking the shine off a little bit. You know, that pain is gone.
Wow.
It's gone.
Good for you, man.
Feels great.
It's
Yeah.
the double-edged sword of for me. If I was to try to hang myself that way, that's double-edged sword of being fat. You know, it's like that. There's no way that door hook is gonna. It's the double-edged sword because if a skinny person falls, they're not gonna hurt their tailbone that badly.
That's
you
true.
know,
You're right about that.
but they're also not gonna break the door
Yeah.
handle. You know, they're not gonna make it out.
That's right.
It's a really sad story that we're all laughing about, by the way, Daniel. That's a very
You
sad
got
story.
you got to laugh. You know.
Well, you know, it's some of these things, you know, you look back at it and it's almost like it didn't happen at the time. It's all a bit of a blur, you know, and then you find yourself a bit further down the line. You're thinking, oh, amazing. You know, even things like, I don't know if you've had this, you ever had sort of like tragedies in your life that you think you'll never get over. And then you reach a point in your life and someone mentions it to you and you almost just pass it off like, yeah, it was a bit rough, but, you know, I've moved on. It's okay. And it doesn't hurt anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. Kind of there. Good feeling.
Good for you, man. Yeah, but I mean, I would say that anybody listening to this, to hear the contrast between 4 years ago when you were that dedicated to, fed up and willing to end it on multiple occasions, to go from there to saying you don't want to die, that you're loving your life, that's just evidence that, you know, no matter how bad it gets, there's always that opportunity to, you know, fall back in love with it, and I think that's important.
And you guys played an instrumental part in that as well, because around about April 2021 is kind of when I decided killing myself wasn't an option. It just wasn't working. So I thought, I'm just going to have to sort of knuckle down and try and make something out of this crappy life I've got. That's when I walked away from the Jehovah's Witness cult that I was in. And then I started doing the Onion Unlimited podcast to tell my story. And you guys were a couple of the in fact, I think you were the first people that I ever connected with outside of my bedsit. And I think we did a show together, didn't we?
We did, yep.
And it was just that kind of human connection outside, because I'd lost all my friends and my family. I had nobody, you know. And then just that connection. I know it was only over the internet, but that in itself, that was one of the things that sort of gave me a little bit of a reason to keep living. You know.
Well, that makes me feel very good, man. I'm happy to know that. And it is strange because we found each other basically through Twitter, right? And
Yeah, I think it was Twitter. I think I'd been listening to some of your podcasts, and you'd been listening to some of mine, and it was you that reached out to me and said, "Should we do one together?"
Right. And my show's small, obviously, but it was much smaller then, and your show's similar. And the fact that we found each other at all, I think, is pretty amazing. Everybody has a podcast now.
Yeah, competing is pretty hard, isn't it? I've got to the point now where I think I'm not even bothered about competing, and I'm not even bothered about reach. I'm not interested in viewing figures. I'm just interested in, if somebody does hear it, does it help them?
Right.
One person. That's all that matters. Yeah. So life is good. We're going to talk about praise today, aren't we? Praise and criticism.
Yes, indeed.
Or praise and blame. Have you heard that quotation? I think it was Richard Carlson in Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. I think that was the title of the book. He said, praise and blame, it's all the same.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, I take from that, like, if someone's telling you you're brilliant or someone's telling you you're rubbish, they're both kind of objective views, aren't they?
Sure.
Or subjective views? What's the word?
Subjective, right?
It's their view. Subjective, yeah. Thoughts on that? What do you reckon? Praise and blame, it's all the same.
Well, I'm actually really interested to hear what this guy over here is going to have to say about the impact that praise and blame has had on him, because I have the impression that Kyle's less susceptible to that than me, and that's just my impression. So I could be completely wrong. I have no idea what goes on emotionally inside this guy's head.
Few do.
But I do think.
Would you say you're less emotional, Kyle?
Yeah, more
than Chris.
I mean, I don't know. Chris doesn't. I mean, we've known each other a long time. He's not like crying at the drop of a hat or anything like that. He's not like a super emotional guy. I would say that Chris is probably like normally emotional, and I am probably like a little less than normally emotional. But I'm not like a sociopath or anything. But it just like it's a little bit more suppressed in me than I think a lot of other people. And there's reasons for that. Who knows what they are?
What do you put that down
to? Just like a lot of things that happened growing up. Like feeling the need to like put distance between myself and other people. Like being guarded, things like that. I think that it boils down to things of that nature. But yeah, no, Chris isn't like weepy or anything like that.
No, I wouldn't say I am either. I think I'm probably somewhere in the area of Chris as well. Mm-hmm. I kind of, life is very logical to me. I'm quite analytical with a lot of things. But there is also quite a, I don't know if this applies to you, Chris, but with me, there's sometimes a little bit of a delicate area, a little bit of a fragile area. And to me, praise and blame, it's not all the same to me. Like when somebody praises me, this is going to sound weird. I can actually feel really awkward. I don't know what to do with it.
I'm with you.
If someone's telling me that's brilliant, amazing, that. I mean, someone told me the other day, you're amazing, you're brilliant, and I was like, oh God, what do I even do with that? It's like, so I just turn it into a joke.
Yeah.
But then if somebody tells me you're really crap, oh God, that sits for a long time. And I start questioning myself, and am I really crap? What have I done wrong? Have I upset someone? Whatever.
I actually kind of like being criticized, So first of all, to go back to what you were saying about praise and criticism being subjective, they're not always, I don't think. I think that praise and criticism can be objective. Like, let's say that you I don't know. Let's pick a hobby. Like let's say that this winter we decide to start playing hockey. Okay, which is not going to happen. But if it did, we could go to an arena. Like there's a hockey arena over closer to Cleveland that we could go practice at.
Yep.
And somebody who's good at hockey could look at us practicing and be like, you guys are shit at hockey, and that's objective, because we've never played hockey before.
Yeah. We
have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that could apply to anything. That could if I like anything, let's just say that I'm going to try to start being, let's say I'm going to try to start being more emotional. I'm going to try to start opening up a little bit more. Somebody could be like, you're not very good at this, and that's an objective criticism, and I think that there is something to objective criticism that helps people get better. And I think that's why I said I like criticism. And I also think that at this point in my life, there's nobody who is harder on me than I am on myself. So
I would agree with that.
Yes.
And I wonder, Daniel, if you agree with that as far as yourself. Are you your harshest critic?
I am absolutely my harshest critic. Yeah, I have a I think I definitely am improving with this, but in the past I've been my self-esteem has been very, very low. I think it's been damaged by the upbringing I had in the JW cult. And we can get into those sort of things later if you like, how religion and your upbringing affects your self-esteem with praise and blame. I've got better with that. I feel a lot more confident now, and criticism affects me less. But it's a strange thing. It's like it does depend sometime on who it is that's criticizing you.
Sure.
Like if just some hobo on the street that I didn't know walked up to me and said, you're crap.
Yep.
I'd be like, and
Yep.
yeah. But if someone like I really respect and value says to me, oh, that's not really good. I don't take offense at criticism. I actually take it really seriously if someone criticizes me and says that's not very good. And that's kind of a bit of the problem. I think sometimes is like the balance isn't there. Like some people can take criticism and go, all right, they've just said that. It's a subjective criticism. Are they right? Are they wrong? Is there anything about the criticism that's right or wrong? That's brilliant. I'll take that little bit and I'll apply it.
Yep.
But for me, I go into this kind of like loop where I just start self-doubting myself, and it knocks on to other things. Like they might only be saying, sort of this thing that you did wasn't quite right. But then I start questioning everything in my life.
Right.
Am I really a good person? Am I rubbish at this? And
So
it's sort of, it can get out of control sometimes, and I have to sort of take a break and
right.
think, well, it is only their opinion. But
So I echo just about everything you said, Daniel. I'm my harshest critic as well. I take criticism very, very seriously. I take it to heart, and that's particularly true when it's somebody I care about. Rarely do I get criticism from Kyle, although he does push back on my logical arguments sometimes, which I appreciate. But every now and then with my wife, when I get criticism from her, man, that is like, it will wreck my whole week, because I do exactly what you said. I will rack my brain. I'll try to put myself into her shoes and try to understand, her criticisms. And, man, I will bend myself over a barrel that way. And I think it's helpful because it does help me see things from other people's perspective. It does remind me that not everybody is like me or sees the world the way I do, or what have you. But I really beat myself up, man. And, I'll improve as a consequence, but I also worry about that. I worry about how much changing my own behavior and my own character is genuine or something. Like, am I?
yeah,
You guys probably both know somebody who starts dating someone and their entire personality changes and they become like a chameleon, and everybody's like, it's so obvious to everybody standing outside of it, like, this isn't right. So I wonder, like, I don't want to fall into that trap where I'm changing myself to fit what somebody wants. of me. But when it's somebody who I want to be acceptable to, like my wife, who I've dedicated my life to, it's a very difficult situation there. You know, I want to be true to myself. I want to be a man. I want to stand on something. I don't want to be pushed around easily. But at the same time, I want to be sensitive to, you know, her needs. And anyways, so this is something that has popped up not that long ago for me, and so it's on my mind.
Yeah, and this is the same as well. Like with Mariella is very good when it comes to. I wouldn't even say that she is critical. I don't even know if the word is critical. She's very good at not agreeing and not making me feel bad. She's really good at that.
Good.
Sometimes she'll say something like, "Oh, you know." We don't argue or anything like that, but sometimes, you know, it might, like we're decorating the house at the moment, renovations, you know, and she'll say, you know, that doesn't look right, what you've done or whatever, but she does it in such a way that is really good. I'll do the whole sort of like self-doubting thing, but I said to her the other day, you know, like even if I turn around and disagree back to you, I don't want you to stop disagreeing with me. Don't ever get to the point where you think, oh, I better not disagree with him because I might upset him, because I need it.
Yeah.
I need that feedback.
Yeah.
It's like looking in a mirror, isn't it? You know, you look in a mirror, if you've got sort of a smudge on your nose, you want to know, don't you?
Yes.
You want to know.
So I'm going to put my psychology hat on, and I want to ask you. All right, so just to state the obvious really quickly, praise and blame are both tools that modify behavior. It's like Pavlov's dog or whatever. It's positive reinforcement. It's negative reinforcement. That's what we're talking about, praise and blame. So if I you know, doing some sort of behavior that's socially unacceptable, and my parents, you know, punish me, swat me on the ass, put me in timeout, whatever the case may be, that's negative enforcement. That's blame. And for some people, that's effective. For some people, it creates trauma, you know. But when it comes to praise or in blame, I think I respond far better to praise than to blame, because I just think positive reinforcement works better in general. So let me just stop there. How about you guys? Positive reinforcement versus negative, is one better, more effective, less damaging?
I think it's interesting that earlier you said that praise will make you feel uncomfortable, but now you're saying that praise, you think it works better.
I do. And it does make me uncomfortable. I'll tell you this story because this may help put it in perspective. So I have Daniel, I have a twin sister, and I have an older brother, 5 years older than me. And both of my brother and sister, most of their school career didn't do as well as I did. And my brother was, he had some other, like, you know, behavioral issues, and he was getting in trouble. And so when, like, grade cards came home, so I'm bringing home my grade cards to show my mom how I'm doing in my classes. I would always know what my sister's grade card was because she's on the bus with her grade card. I'm sitting next to her with mine, and she's dreading going home because she's now got to confront my parents about her C's or D's or whatever. And meanwhile, I've got straight A's. Maybe I've got one B, and that was pretty normal for me. I did really well in school when it wasn't that difficult for me. So when I go home and my mom sees my grade card and she's thrilled and she's giving me praise, all I can think about is how badly that's making my sister feel. So this was a very normal thing for me growing up. Any kind of praise made me feel guilty, and I didn't want to make it worse on them.
Interesting.
Yeah. I have a similar feeling to that. So I have a sister, lovely girl. And when we were growing up, I was the talented one. I was the clever one. I was good at English. I was good at maths. I was brilliant at music, you know. She was average at best.
Yep.
But she was loving. She was loving, and she was kind and nice. And Mum and Dad always used to praise her for that. You're so lovely. You're so nice. You're so kind. Whereas I got praised for, you're brilliant at playing the clarinet.
Yeah.
And there was something about that. It didn't feel good. I think when I was very young, I didn't really notice it. I mean, I was a bit of a performing monkey. So, like, if we'd go around somebody's house for a meal or something, you know, mum and dad would be, oh, take your clarinet with you. You know, and then all evening it'd be, oh, you know, Daniel, play that tune. Daniel, play this tune, you know. And our hosts would be, oh, God, not another one, you know. And when I was very young, I guess, like, the attention, I liked it. But as I started getting a little bit older, I started noticing, or it felt like I was being praised for something I could do, not something I was.
Yeah, I see that. Yep.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like that for my sister. I felt uncomfortable for her, you know, even though she was receiving praise. And I just felt, I didn't feel like I really existed as a person. I was just someone with a talent.
No, I understand that. Yeah. She's getting praise for her immutable characteristics, who she is, what she's like, and you're getting praise for what you're capable of doing, you know, like.
And I longed for that. And I actually, I don't know if you've ever done this. I actually started kind of rebelling. So I started being rubbish at stuff on purpose. Yeah. So, like, I packed in the clarinet just out of the blue. I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not playing music anymore. And I didn't play for ages. At school, for example, I was out of school for 3 years because I had a breakdown after I was sexually abused as a child. I went back into school. I was 3 years behind everyone, but I was so good at, like, say, math, for example. Even though I was 3 years behind, I actually sat my one of my exams like earlier than the other kids. Passed straight A's on this exam. And the teachers were like, fantastic. You know, when the other kids are going to be going into their, whatever it was, O levels, I think they called them, they were going to put me into my A level, which was another step up. And it's like, you're going to nail this, Daniel. Going to nail it because you're so good. I purposely went into that exam and I wrote my name on the top of the exam paper and I just sat there for an hour.
No.
I didn't fill in anything. And I got an ungraded. And I did that on purpose because I was sick and tired of people telling me how brilliant I was.
Yep, that reminds me of the Dostoevsky quote we always repeat, which I'm going to, if I have to paraphrase now, I'll butcher, but something along the lines of, if human beings had everything that they could ever desire, all they needed to do was busy themselves with the propagation of the species and eating cake or whatever. I don't know quite how it goes. That they would they throw a wrench in it, they would destroy the whole thing just so that something interesting happens. That's self-sabotage. Yeah, human beings are weird.
Yeah. So praise can actually have a negative effect. Praise, it can be. There's an example there of praise where the person probably means very well, but you're not receiving it in a way that you feel you need to be praised. You want to be told that you're a nice person, that people value you for being loving or kind or whatever, and you're just being, you know, any gifts that I may or may not have had, or still have, I don't even. They're just stuff I'm born with.
Yeah.
You know, I've not tried to be good at any of these things. You know, I'm really lazy when it comes to that sort of stuff. I've not sat there practicing music for, you know, hours every day to become good at it.
Right.
It's, you know, if I had any ability, it was just natural. So it didn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah.
To be told, oh, you're good at that. You know, and the other one as well with, you know, when people praise you and it's just blowing smoke up your ass. Have you ever had that before? Like I knew a guy called Martin in my church years ago, and he was we were always being commended about, encouraged to be positive to people and praise people, or, you know, praise people, commend people, encourage people. And he took it to an extreme. It didn't matter how crap you were at something. Like if I got up and gave a public talk to people, it didn't matter whether that public talk was good, medium, or crap. He would come up afterwards and say, "That was brilliant. That was so good. Wow."
Yeah.
And at first you'd go, "Oh, thanks, Martin. That means a lot," But then there'd be someone else get up and do something really, really crap. And he'd go up to them. "That was so good. That was brilliant. It was amazing." And you watch this for a while and it's like, it doesn't matter how good it is.
Yeah.
He's just telling everyone they're brilliant.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
And then you
right,
think,
yeah.
so when he tells me I'm good, maybe it's not so good. Yeah.
So one of the things I said earlier, and Kyle's reaction kind of caught my attention, and I want to circle it back around to him. When I was describing feeling guilty about getting praise in the situation where I was concerned about my brother and sister and the light that it puts them in, and you were sort of nodding your head like it was the first time that idea has crossed your. I just wonder what I wonder what you thought about that specifically, Kyle, because it just seemed like maybe that caught you off guard.
About you feeling guilty?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that caught me off guard. I think that actually, to me, makes sense for your personality type.
Okay, that's what the nod was about.
Yeah,
okay.
probably.
Okay.
So just to go back to what you were talking about, that guy Martin, I feel like people like that, you never know. You never know the intentions of a person unless you ask them about it, I guess. But I feel like, there is a way that a person could be doing that and they're just trying to be supportive of literally everyone. But there is a level with that where it's like you're not helping, you're preventing people from getting better.
Yeah.
By telling them that you're great. Yeah. You don't need to do any work. No, you need to do some fucking work. You need to practice. Right. You need to get better. Yeah. And that's why, I am probably harder on myself than I need to be. But that is why I am hard on myself, is because, and why when people do give me praise, I tend to not take it to heart, because I don't want to be like, "Oh, I'm good at this now." I can let ease up. I can hit the brakes a little bit. I don't want to do that. I don't want to become complacent. I think when I was younger, I always had a tendency. I had a tendency to think that I was let's just say at work, I would always be like, "Man, I'm the best employee here. If it wasn't for me, this place would go out of business," But that is not the truth, I would get fired. So obviously I wasn't doing good, and the company would keep going just fine. You know what I mean? But in my head, I was doing great. And it's because I wasn't criticizing myself. I wasn't holding myself to a higher standard. And that was like my inner Martin, it's like, "You're doing great. Doing great, kid."
I read a quote last night actually that reminded me of that. It said, "Never accept praise or blame either without attaching an expiration date to it. Neither of them are forever."
You might need to
you can if you're not careful.
You kind of froze up there in the beginning, man.
Oh, did I freeze up? You didn't hear that. Never accept praise or blame, either of them, without attaching an expiration date to them. Neither of them are forever. Because you can end up like, if you're told you're brilliant, you can just kind of rest on your laurels and think you're brilliant forever, can't you?
Yeah.
Or if you've been criticised, you can sit there for weeks, months.
I'm garbage.
Thinking, "Oh, I'm rubbish."
Yeah. Daniel, is there any particular criticism that you received? And this could easily be a very personal question, so you take this however you want. Any particular criticism you received, maybe from a parent or somebody that was very important to you, that was traumatic in the sense that you still remember it to this day?
Yeah, and this is going to sound silly. This was an elder, so the equivalent of an overseer or a vicar in a church in our congregation, who really didn't like me very much. he kind of branded himself as the only loving person in the congregation. He was an example of Christ-like love to everybody. Everything was love. I'm so loving. I love you. I love him. We all need to be
Sounds
loving.
humble.
And everyone used to look. Oh God, it used to do my head in a bit because he never used to like do the you need to do better. It was always love, 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 love. But when it came to me, he would say, "You know your problem? You're not loving." Oh God, that floored me. That did for years. That really upset me.
That had you rethinking every
I felt,
action you've ever taken,
yeah,
every relationship you've ever had.
I got to the point in that congregation. I literally felt like I couldn't breathe because I was being watched every second.
It's no good.
Yeah, because my natural approach when I used, because I was a teacher in the congregation, I would give talks from the platform, and I would looking back now, I do think I was actually quite balanced with it. I would commend where there was commendation, but I would do the whole thing in this particular area, brothers and sisters. We're not doing so well as a congregation. We need to work on this a bit more and get better at it. And if we do, we'll feel better. You know, it'll promote relations. Everything will be good. But every time I did that, he'd take me to one side and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. That was really unloving. You were being unkind to people." And I think,
You know what's
God,
the worst
really
thing
unloving?
about that is to me, Daniel, is I know that this is a religious community. Not only is it a religious community, it's a Christian religious community where Christly love and sacrifice. Love is such an important part of the whole thing. It's like being loving is basically a synonym for being Christ-like, which you're tasked to be, especially if you're one of the anointed, which you suggested you were. And then you've got this elder who's a respected person in the community coming up and telling you you're not loving or you're not loving enough, which is basically synonymous with saying you're not Christ-like, right? You're not loving, and then Christ that's what he is, loving, and you aren't that.
And then when you couple that, I guess, with the childhood thing where I've got a lovely, beautiful sister that's been told she's so loving all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm craving for that recognition. Because I genuinely do and did love people, genuinely. And if I offered criticism, it was always from the perspective I wanted other people to get better. It was never to bring them down. I could see potential, and it was like, if you just tweaked it a little bit there, you'd go from being good to like amazing.
So,
you know?
So this thing about criticism with the intent of bringing someone down, this is something that I'd like to loop Kyle in on. And I don't exactly know how to frame this, but I'll tell you this, Daniel. Kyle enjoys.
I'm a dickhead.
He's a little bit of a dickhead. I think he enjoys. I don't know if enjoys is the right word. Kyle is a critical person and critical of himself maybe more than he will admit to. And also he enjoys watching debates, and what's happening in the debates is this, what we're describing, this sort of criticism, but it's like rapid fire. And he said earlier that he enjoys that type of criticism, and I could see it reflected in the enjoyment you get from debates that I listen to, and I say, what do I say, Kyle? Tell Daniel what I say when I listen to these debates.
He says that they're being mean, mostly. He thinks that they're being big meanie heads.
Yeah. Mean and unconstructive. But that's something that you like. And I see it as somebody being brought down, and I wonder what you think of that.
Well, sometimes I think that people need to be brought down, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. It's like what we're talking about, like with this fella at your church who was just always love, 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 and never any criticism. It's like, yes, Jesus was love, but if somebody's doing something that's terrible and you don't say, hey, what you're doing is terrible, do you love that person? If like your brother like you talked earlier about you committing suicide. If you know that somebody you love is going to commit suicide, and you're like, "Well, I love you. Do what makes you happy," and you let them kill themselves, do you love that person, or are you a fucking asshole? Or that doesn't love that person?
Yeah.
If somebody you love is doing heroin and like gonna kill themselves, if somebody you love is, they're diabetic and they won't start eating better and their fucking toes are rotting off, and you can't force that person to start eating celery, but you can say, "Hey man, I love you, and it would mean a lot to me, because I love you, if you would start taking care of yourself a little bit better. What you're doing is not good." And Jesus in the Bible was not this kind of like positive, affirming love all the time. He said, "Go and sin no more." He said, he went to the temple and turned over the tables of the money changers and things like that. It's not, he wasn't always, Jesus had an edge to him. Sell your cloak and buy a sword.
Yeah, what does he say? I have not come to bring peace but a sword. What does he say?
That's basically it.
Daniel, you know that verse?
So, I've not come to bring peace, but to bring a sword. That was within families, wasn't it? And he said a son will hate his father, and his father will hate his son, and so forth. I think with Jesus, whatever your kind of view of Jesus is, the Jesus character, it was about honesty. I think when you take the ego out of praise and blame and just do it honestly, that's a whole different thing. Like that guy that was walking around, love. It was about ego at the end of the day. It wasn't because he loved everybody. It's because he wanted to be perceived in a certain way.
To be the love guy.
Martin, who blew smoke up everybody's arse and telling they're brilliant all the time, is because he wanted to progress within the church and be seen like that other guy, because he was modeling himself on that.
We've gotten ourselves to a point. We've gotten ourselves to a point in the world where everyone is leaning into that kind of thing, and any kind of constructive criticism is seen as bad. And like you said, that like the type of debates that I like to watch, that it's not necessarily constructive, and I don't necessarily agree with you. I think that like we've talked about this before in a debate. If you're willing to go, if you're willing to go on a channel that's got thousands of viewers and defend an idea, your heels are probably pretty dug in on that idea. You're not going to be super. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not going to be easy to change your mind.
Right.
But it's not really. You're not really trying to change that person's mind. You're trying to demonstrate the folly in that person's ideas for the people watching. So I think it's constructive in that way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come down on Kyle's side on this one, Chris, because I totally agree with Kyle on this. I love those debates. I love watching stuff like Stephen Fry, who's a hardened atheist, talking to the Archbishop of Canterbury, or Jordan Peterson and Richard Dawkins, that kind of thing. And I love it where each one is able to like give like a 5-minute introduction, and then they get like 15 minutes to like tear each other's point of view apart.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's brilliant. And I think I don't know if you find this when it comes to criticism, if it's done, if you give permission to the other person to criticize you in advance, and it's two-way, right? We're both going to criticize each other here. There's a whole different feeling to that criticism. It doesn't feel personal anymore.
Yeah. I think that links back to what you said about the ego before, which is a super important point that we should probably spend a little bit more time on. You said that if the ego weren't a part of it, the criticism would not at all feel like a criticism. And as you said that, I imagined a scenario in my head where I didn't take it personally, and I 100% agree with you. If my ego isn't in it, if I don't take a criticism as a rejection of me as a person, if I really thought about it as strictly a refutation of some behavior, some quality, some habit, something that is being criticized, not me being criticized. But that is a very difficult thing to do. It's like our default is to think any criticism is a rejection of the whole of us, right? Not just a criticism of some behavior or quality.
And you don't have to agree, do you? The thing with criticism is, like, listen to it. Even if it's not constructive criticism, even if it is just someone being an absolute dickhead that's like, just trying to destroy you. Listen. Is there anything in that criticism that I agree with, that I can use? Because there's no point at the end of the day agreeing with criticism that, you just don't agree with, trying to work with something you don't agree with. You don't have to agree with the criticism.
Right.
If at the end of the day you think what they're saying's got no value at all, then don't try and give it value. If you genuinely don't feel it's got any value, throw it away. It's got an expiration date. I had a guy in another congregation that I worked with, a guy called Bernard. He was a bit of a father figure to me, a little bit older than me, and he said to me, "I really love your ability to teach," and he said, "and I don't feel I've got that." And I said to him, "and I really love your calm approach to things, and I don't think I've got that," because I was quite a young fella at the time. And we both agreed that we would be like super critical of each other and pull each other up whenever and also praise each other when we thought we were doing really well. Yeah. So every time he gave a speaking part at the meeting at the Kingdom Hall, I'd sort of give him counsel afterwards. I'd say, that bit was really good, that bit wasn't really good, do this, it will be better next time. And then he would watch the way I went about things and dealt with people. You could have been a little bit calmer there, you could have been a little bit gentler, and that kind of contract that we made with each other, I'm not saying it still wasn't disappointing. If he said to me, Dan, don't think you did really well on that, it'd still be a bit disappointing because I wanted to do well. But because we'd agreed beforehand that we were doing this.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I would, and sometimes I'd take away what he said. Other times I think, no, I think you're wrong there, Bernard. And he'd do the same.
See, I feel that.
And we both got better. He got better at teaching. I think I became a lot calmer and just a lot more laid back with things.
See, I feel that way with Kyle when he pushes back against me sometimes on the podcast, especially if I get going. Sometimes I get going and I just get impassioned and I say shit that I don't really mean.
I love watching you two guys do that. I love that.
Now this is
like when you're saying something, then Kyle goes, "No,
exactly,
I don't agree."
Exactly. But here's the thing:
it's like just watching you stop. It's like, oh, hang on.
but it's important though. Now, we didn't talk about it in advance and give each other permission to be critical. But here's the thing: I respect Kyle's opinion, so I will actually listen to him, and I know he loves me deeply. So even if he's saying something that, even if like my ego, if I notice my ego getting in the way, I'm like, but it's Kyle, and so having a friend like Kyle is a tremendous advantage, because even if I replace Kyle with my wife as an example, I have a far harder time not taking it personally with my wife. With Kyle, it's almost like the other side of my brain. It's like me.
Right. Now, what you've got there with Kyle, I've got there with Mariella.
That's great.
You know how often we refer to our wives or our girlfriends as our other half? I don't. I refer to her as my other whole.
Oh.
Because I literally feel like she is me.
She's helped.
And when we're having discussions and debates and everything, it's literally like just putting everything out there on the table and sifting through it and reaching a conclusion. But there's no ego. There's no I'm trying to prove you wrong about something. It's just trying to reach an end point.
So this whole conversation's got me inspired to pay more attention to when my ego flares up and to try to control it better. Like I feel like as you get older, you naturally get better at that. Maybe not everybody does, but I think everybody does. But we could all do better about it. You know, I'm not saying I'm going to start practicing Buddhism, but I do think that I should just try to notice it when the ego starts to creep up. Just notice it, you know, and try as a practice, as an exercise. Maybe I'm a Buddhist now. I don't know. Try to remove the ego from my thinking and the actions that follow from my thinking. So I'm inspired. I'm inspired to try that.
Yep. Yep. Here's a little bit of a tangent, I guess, but it's still on the praise and blame side of things. Do you think people with low self-esteem tend to criticize other people more? Because I feel like in the past I had very low self-esteem, and I think I was more critical and judgmental of other people in the past. But as I've become more comfortable in my own skin, more honest and more authentic, I've become less. I think I'm still very honest. If I don't think something's good, I'll say, no, I don't like that. But more so, maybe even. But I've become less judgmental.
Yeah.
I feel.
Go ahead, Kyle. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think particularly you tend to be critical of the things that you don't like about yourself. I feel like it's very easy to be critical of those things in other people, you know, because it reminds you of yourself. And, you know, maybe you hide it from everyone, but you feel that, you know, just pick whatever flaw you want it to be. When you see that in other people, it's very easy to be critical of those things because you are projecting yourself onto that, you know?
Deflected.
And there's also people, and I definitely don't think, I mean, I would never put you in this category, Daniel, but you may have to tell me if this is something that you dealt with as a younger person, is, you know, those people that put other people down in order to feel better about themselves. You know what I mean?
That was me.
Really? Honestly?
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear it.
Absolutely. So there's two ways of feeling good, isn't there? You can climb the ladder and put the effort in to climb the ladder and elevate yourself, or you can dig a hole and put someone else in it.
Yeah.
Either way, you feel better than the other person.
Yeah.
But when you dig a hole and throw someone in it, you've not improved yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did that a bit. Very, very judgy. And I think you're dead right there, Kyle. I think a lot of that came from knowing sort of secretly inside that I wasn't ticking all the boxes.
Yeah.
And so I would deflect and project and pick up on other people's issues, you know. And it was when I was younger.
Yeah.
It was when I was younger. As I grew older, I started to, when I sort of got into maybe my 30s, there was somebody in our congregation that was particularly judgy, always putting people down. And it was like looking in a mirror. And I looked at him and I thought, oh, God, am I turning into that? And I think that was a bit of a turnaround where I started acting differently.
Little dose of self-awareness.
Yeah. And I was still... you know, I still gave out if you do this, you know, make these changes, you'll be better. I still tried to guide and, you know, spiritually people and what have you. But I started becoming a lot more commendable of people. And the funny thing is, when I started doing that, I started getting a lot of criticism for not following the rules. Because I'd stopped being judgy. It was so bizarre. When I was quite judgy, certain people used to praise me for it and certain people used to hate me for it. And then when I became less judgy, more Christ-like, dare I say, I started getting criticism for that.
Can't win.
Isn't that bizarre? And this is why I wonder, you know, coming back to that praise and blame, it's all the same. You know, where's the truth in all of this? Because what you can end up doing, and I think I've done this most of my life, up until very recently, I've oscillated. People's opinions have pushed me left and right, you know? Where do you find the self-esteem to sort of say, this is where I'm at? You know, I'll listen to criticism, what have you. I'll listen to praise and I'll adjust and adapt, but I'm not going to be pushed so far either side. Yeah. At what point do you reach that kind of, not egotism, but that kind of self, I don't know what word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to have a certain
self-assuredness.
Yeah, you have to have a certain grasp on your identity. What I mean is, you have to know what you think about something before you can. You know what I mean? And when you're young,
I do know. I never used to know what I thought because I was always being told what to think.
Exactly. But that's everybody. Yeah. Everybody has to be told, and then start pushing back against that, and make those mistakes, and in order to start having judgments that are worth a damn, and being able to figure out what you think is ultimately what that judgment that's worth a damn means, and only then can you weigh other people's opinions against what you believe. And there's nothing wrong with changing what you believe then, if you're persuaded. But until you know what you think, you're going to be caught in that wave, that back and forth that you described. Whoever has a more compelling argument is going to, you're just going to switch sides, willy-nilly.
Yeah. It's an awful place to be. Sometimes you're feeling good. Sometimes you're feeling uncomfortable. Sometimes you're feeling rejected. And you're doing the same back to people. You're doing this. You're projecting the same thing back to people. You're putting them in holes, or you're bigging them up, or whatever. And there's nothing authentic or real or valuable in all of that. It's just a wash of opinions. It's a wash of opinions. Can I'll tell you something very interesting that happened to me recently? So I used to be INFJ, the Myers-Briggs personality test. Mm-hmm. Introverted, very introverted, quite intuitive, a very feely person, F. And the J bit, the judgmental bit, the not necessarily in a bad way, but a very kind of always like things to be, no loose ends kind of thing. I was an INFJ. There's two types: dash T, which is tumultuous, where you're very pushed around and and then there's INFJ-A, which is assertive. You know where you stand. I always used to be INFJ-T, and I just sensed recently that that's changed, and I took the test again, and I'm now an INFJ-A.
And what changed between those two tests, in your words?
I've started living honestly. Yeah.
What does that mean, living honestly?
Not trying to please people all the time.
Yeah, that's a problem for me.
I care about people's opinions. I obviously want to make people happy, but not at the expense of being dishonest.
Yeah. So I don't want to derail. So we can do whatever you want to do here, Daniel. But I did ask you a question earlier about whether there was any particular criticism that stuck around as a powerful memory, to this day. And I'm willing to answer that question, but I wanted to ask that question to Kyle. Is there any particular memory of someone criticizing you that sticks around?
No, not really.
No?
Yeah. I think, like you were talking about with like your report card, your grades and whatnot. I definitely never got any praise because I never did anything that was praiseworthy. Like you said, you got mostly A's and a couple of B's. I got a lot of F's throughout my entire school. I don't know how I graduated high school. I don't know how I did it. it was like a couple teachers did me some big favors is honestly what I think happened.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get a whole lot of, obviously, like I said, praise, but I didn't get a whole lot of meaningful criticism either. Like, you know, my mom just passed a little bit over a year ago, and I don't really like to like say bad things. But you know, the truth is the truth. Yeah, I never got like I would get yelled at, you know, like I would get like my mom would yell at me for like a half an hour, and then you know that would be it, you know. So I mean I remember getting yelled at, but I don't remember really anything being said that like really stuck me, you know.
You know what I wonder about that, Kyle? You remember how Daniel was talking about Marvin?
Yeah.
And how Marvin's praise lost all of its power because he said the same thing to everybody.
Yeah.
And I wonder if your mom's criticism was like that, where you knew you were going to get yelled at for 30 minutes, and so you just went in one ear and out the other.
Oh yeah,
because
100%.
because it was always that.
Yeah.
It didn't have any effect on you. Does that?
Yeah, 100%. Like I knew when I was a kid that it's like, all right, I just have to like sit here and get yelled at for a little bit, and then you know, then it'll be, you know, back to usual.
Yeah.
I think that there were other people who maybe said things to me that weren't like particularly like barbed criticisms. They didn't like hurt me, but they would try to be like encouraging towards me. And I had very low self-esteem when I was a kid. So I would, you know, they'd be like, you know, you're a smart kid. You can do better. And I'd be like, you know, I probably didn't really say anything. I probably just like kind of shrugged, you know. But I didn't believe that back then, you know. I didn't believe that I was a smart kid.
Or that you could do better.
Yeah, yeah.
Tough.
So, no criticism that really stood out to me like that, honestly. I don't really remember, honestly, I don't really remember any criticism really bothering me until I started criticizing myself more, you know, like, honestly.
Yeah.
You seem a lot more, Kyle, you seem a lot more emotionally robust than I do. I mean, I don't want to speak for Chris, but you seem a lot more robust, less delicate, less fragile than maybe.
Tougher exterior, yeah.
Yeah. I would say that's true.
Do you put that down to maybe? I was going to say less of the praise and blame. Do you think you were just sort of allowed to just get on with being who you were? I know your mum sort of shouted at you and stuff, but maybe you didn't have the extremes of the praise and criticism that maybe I did or Chris did.
Yeah, no, I don't think I did. I think that, my brother, I would say, got more of it. My brother did really well in school and was always a very, like the perfect son. He was always very nice. Yeah. Whereas I didn't do well in school. I always had an attitude. I was always just kind of kind of an attitudinal child. Very rebellious, very, I like wanted to do things my way. So yeah, they just kind of like left me to my own devices,
So there's very definitely a connection there between people pleasing and self-esteem and praise and blame. You weren't a people pleaser growing up.
I wasn't in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways I did. I had very low self-esteem and I did want people to like me very much. Up until I would say like my early 20s. And then it had something to do with like a really long bad bout of depression that I had at that age where I just like stopped caring what people thought in general. And that changed the way that I feel about a lot of things, and I think that it was good in some ways, but I think it was also not good in some ways too, But yeah, when I was younger in like my teenage years, I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted to be friends. Honestly, I've kind of contextualized it in that when I was younger, I was a lot more like my mom, honestly. My mom was very outgoing. My mom was very, she was a people pleaser. She always wanted people to like her. But everyone did. Everyone loved my mom. And in my childhood and my teenage years did not feel very accepted. You know, I didn't feel like I had a lot of friends. I didn't feel like a lot of people liked me. And I kind of chalked that up to like, it's because they could tell that I wanted them to, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. It's like, it like pushes people away.
Yeah,
It's like you're
it does.
needy, you know?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry, go ahead.
And yeah. And then, like I said, a little bit later in, like I said, my early 20s, I just like shut down. And again, I don't think that that's all good, but I do think it had its benefits too. You know, it like changed how I view people and how they view me, how I view them viewing me, I guess, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's something true in what you say from a romantic perspective. If you're trying to date somebody and you don't want to be the one that wants it more, right? It's like, you know, you come off as needy or thirsty, as they say.
Especially if you're the guy.
Yeah, especially if you're the guy. So being a little aloof is like, at some point you realize that that's to your advantage, you know? I don't know what you might have to say, Daniel. I do want to talk about neediness in a second, but I feel like I'm dominating this conversation too much. What do you think?
As I was listening to Kyle there, I was just wondering, you seem to have a good balance on it, Kyle. And you say you sort of reach that balance at, say, 20. I feel like I've reached that balance at like 54.
Yeah.
It's taken me all my life to get to this, well, my life so far, to get to this point of where I'm not overly affected by what people think, or certainly not how I was in the past, but I've not also gone the other extreme. Is there a risk that you can sort of go the other extreme and not give a damn what anybody thinks?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I wrestled. With
Yes,
that, honestly.
you did. Yes, you did.
No, I think I still do, honestly.
And then you just become like an angry, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that I struggled with that in the past. I think that I still do to some degree, although I can't imagine myself like really caring what people think all that much anymore. It's just like, you know, it depends on the people, I guess, you know? But just like the idea that I'm going to like be bent out of shape because even like, it doesn't even have to be a stranger. It could be someone that I kind of know. It's like, I don't fucking know you, man. Like you're a coworker of mine. I don't care what you think.
I just had a thought. You tell me if this makes any sense to you. So you know how we've been saying that who you're getting the praise or blame from makes a difference. If it's someone you don't care about or someone you respect or whatever it is. And when you're younger, at least for me, I thought people were better than me in a lot of ways. I had a lot of insecurities about it. And as you get older, like one of the things, obviously as you get older, that sort of attitude tends to die down a little bit.
You understand that everyone sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have said this many, many times in various colorful ways that people are mostly idiots, and you're not wrong. So my question is, do you think that your attitude towards praise and blame changes when nobody who's criticizing you or praising you, you're holding on a pedestal anymore? Like everybody is shit, and in their opinion is worth shit.
Yeah, if your opinion is going to matter to me, you have to like demonstrate to me why it should matter to me, you know? And I try not to, like the idea that everyone, you know, like pretty much everyone is dumb. I try not to think that way because it's like, not everyone is, you know? I think a lot of people are capable, but I think what it boils down to is a lot of people just don't think, you know?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, they may have the capacity, they might be really smart people, but they just aren't ever like, you know, they're happy just to go to work and, you know, they're not ever like thinking deeply. They don't understand why they think the things that they think. They don't ever take the time to like sort these things out. And yeah, people who don't think like that, their opinion just doesn't really mean that much to me. Yeah, I don't know. That sounds kind of narcissistic to me, honestly. Like, I feel like maybe I'm kind of a narcissist.
No, actually, that makes me think a little bit better of your position, the way you explained it. Because what you're basically saying is, yeah, it's not that nobody's opinion is worth a shit, so why should I care? It's that if you aren't putting in the effort to have an opinion that's well thought out, and it's like, if you're not doing that work, why should I care?
Yeah, it's fine for you. You can think the things that you think and have no reason to think them. Like, if I ask you, we'll just put it down to politics. If I say, what are your political beliefs? And you say, I'm this, and this. And I say, okay, like, why do you believe those things? And you don't have, like, a good answer. That's fine that you believe those things, but you're not convincing me at all, and I don't care about your opinion. Fair enough.
Yeah, criticism, quite often people don't put any effort into. It's just a throwaway comment. I don't like that. You're rubbish at this. Do better. Yeah. You know. But they've not thought about it. And when you challenge them and say, "Why do you think that?" Well, I just don't like you. Doesn't matter then, does it? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's something that the debates that I watch have, like, really, like, sealed the deal on for me. It's like, a lot of these people, they go to these debates and they have these really strong opinions about things. And, you know, you ask them, you're like, okay, in your opening statement, this is what I believe, and I'm very passionate about it. And then it gets to the point where you get to the back and forth, and the person that they're debating says, why do you believe that? And they're like, it makes me feel good. Yeah. Okay, well, it doesn't make me feel good. So why should I believe that? Why should I take your opinion seriously?
Fair enough.
I love that. That has changed the way I think about praise and blame. That is really, really good. Yeah, Kyle. That's excellent. So when someone criticizes me, especially if it's quite harsh criticism, rather than feeling hurt or disregarding it or taking it too seriously, the first thing to do, and it's sort of like a mental exercise, is to come back with, thank you for that criticism. Explain it to me. Why do you think that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because most people fall apart at that question. Yeah, you're right, man. You're right.
Yeah, that's really good. I love it.
So I can be honest with you guys. I mean, at some point, I want to shine the flashlight on me for a second, because I asked you guys a question that could have been a difficult one about any criticism that sticks with you, and I, like you, can't really think of some childhood memory of dad or mom or brother. And my brother, I have an older brother who's I've looked up to my entire life. He's like a tremendous influence on me. And anything he would have said that was critical, I would have, and I'm sure it happened many, many times. None of those pop in my head. I don't have any memory of them. I don't hang on to bad memories. I don't. Some people do. I don't. I let that shit go, which is good. But I want to tell you guys something along these lines that's come up in my life. It's come up more than twice, but I'm going to put it this way. I got a criticism from my wife that I also got from my ex-wife. Okay?
Ooh, dagger to the heart.
So here's the thing. My ex-wife's opinion is not one that I rank very highly. Daniel, I don't know how much I've told you about my ex-wife before, but to summarize it, she's a crazy bitch, and she's a crazy bitch, and I don't know what more to say than that. I don't take her opinion. I don't value it much, but what she told me was that I'm needy, and that my need for praise is extremely off-putting. Then I get almost verbatim that criticism from my wife today, whose opinion I respect.
Literally today?
Not today, but not long ago.
Okay.
So let me just explain. I'll try to explain this to you the way that the conversation goes. You tell me what you think. So I don't ask for praise. I don't say to my wife, praise me or whatever, but it's clear to her that I want to know that I'm doing well. I want to know that I'm taking care of my business as a husband, as a father, as a head of the house, all that stuff. I need to know that I'm doing okay. And I don't get that from her, and I didn't get it from my ex-wife. And what it does is it leads to some kind of reinforcing behavior where I don't know what it is I'm doing, but I'm guilty of something that it makes it seem to them like I am begging for recognition, that I need to be patted on the back. And that's what my ex-wife told me all the time. It's like, why do you need me to pat you on the back? And it's not it. And I really don't really know what I'm doing that makes it seem that way. But the truth is, and this is very much the truth, it's important to me to know that I'm doing well. It's important for me to know that I'm doing okay, that I'm checking all the boxes, that my wife is happy with me, that my kids are happy with me, that in my wife's eyes, I'm taking care of her and I'm raising the kids in the way that she wants me to. It's important for me to know that I'm doing okay. And how am I supposed to know if nobody ever tells me? Then I am racked with anxiety all the time that I'm not good enough and I'm not doing enough and I'm fucking up because, and this is why I say that praise is more effective, because a small whisper of that kind of recognition, it's like, man, I heard you, disciplining, Freya the other day, and what you said, man, that was great. Just any little tiny whiff of the idea that I'm doing well changes my entire mood. It creates this huge motivation for me to do those things more. And anyway, so I'll stop talking here. I just want to know what you guys might think about this.
I totally get that. I'm thinking you're not looking for smoke being blown up your ass. That's not what you're looking for, but you just want some confirmation that you're doing okay.
Bingo. Daniel gets it.
I get it. I'm thinking, I wonder if this comes back to the self-esteem issues, maybe from childhood, that kind of thing again, where you're doubting yourself. I would also say there is a voice inside of you, underneath any self-doubt, that is telling you, you are doing okay here. I've done a good job here. And then you just want an external confirmation of that.
Yes, but you also need to admit that there's the other voice there that's saying you're not doing enough. You're not good enough. You're a bad father. You're a bad husband. And I have to shut that voice up too.
So why do you feel that?
Well, I don't know, but I will tell you this. I was a mama's boy. And Kyle's brother, who he said was the golden child, was also a mama's boy. And so all those praising scenarios that we talked about coming from mom, let's say, growing up, about your grades on your report card or whatever it is, I lived for that.
That affirmation.
Yeah. I wanted nothing more than to please my mother and father, but my mother, I guess, was more front and center in raising me, so it was her. And maybe I project that on my own wife. Maybe I'm doing that, but I don't exactly know what that means or what to do about it, or if it's wrong. I don't know. It doesn't. It's not obvious to me that it's wrong.
It's wrong, but it sounds to me like we've, both you and I, Kyle less so, have lifted experiences from our childhood and put them, we're still carrying those experiences from childhood. We've still got that.
I think I might be too. It's just different experiences from childhood,
Yeah, maybe so. But you just seem a lot more, how can I put this?
Based.
I'm just going to be honest. Chris and me, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but sometimes we still feel like the child.
Yeah.
Whereas
I still feel that way in some ways too. Like sometimes I feel it in the sense
that, you don't project that. I look at you and you seem very robust and adult.
I try inside. Well, that's the thing. It's like inside, I feel very much like that. Like I mean, not that I think that again, not that I think that you guys are like panicky, like externally, but inside, I'm like I don't have my shit together. I don't have everything's. I feel like everything is like constantly on the verge of just falling apart. You know what I mean?
You take it very well because you look.
Yeah.
You seem extremely robust. Whereas I don't know. Sometimes I still feel that sort of childhood trauma even is still there.
So I want to add one thing.
Recently, but yeah.
I want to add one thing, Daniel. I don't know if this is connected, but it popped in my head a couple times. I did a podcast with my friend Josh Hamilton that I grew up with. We did a couple, but in one of the episodes we did early on, probably in season 1, he said something in the course of the conversation that like it made me kind of tear up, and it was unexpected. And I still don't really understand why it had that emotional impact on me. But he said something about getting confirmation from his dad that he was becoming a proper man, and anyway, it was something about that got me all choked up, and I wonder if the recognition that I was getting from my mom, if that was something that I really wanted from my dad and didn't get from him. I don't know. We don't have to psychoanalyze each other here. I'm just saying I wonder if there's something there, because I honestly can't tell you. I'm just telling you what's popping in my head. I haven't really given it much thought.
What is the thing that you most want to hear?
That I'm doing well, that I'm doing okay, that I'm
at what?
I had this
at what? Because like I'm going to give you a bit of straight praise here. This is something that me and Mariella talk about a lot. So I know you, Chris, mostly from doing podcasts, yeah. And both Mariella and Mariella's in awe sometimes when she listens to you. The level of understanding you have, the way you're able to explain yourself. We say you're like a professor, I
love that.
Just the depth, the spirituality, all this kind of thing, That's praise. Is that the sort of praise that you really long for, or is it something a lot more simple, like it was with my sister, which is you're just a lovely daughter? What is it? What is it that you need to hear?
You are a lovely daughter, Chris.
Listen, I guess what I want to know is that what I'm doing is what I should be doing. That I'm taking care of my responsibilities, man. Like I'm.
And what are the most important responsibilities? Is that husband and father?
Absolutely.
That's where you need to hear the praise.
Yeah. Mm. Well, but certainly asking for it doesn't work, and beating around the bush and being what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But in any case, whatever I'm doing isn't working. It's not getting the results that I want.
Do you give praise? The person that you most desire praise from, do you praise them?
I do. I think that I do. And sometimes when this topic comes up, I will say that. I'm like, but listen, I think gratitude is one of the best qualities that a person can have, period. So I try to be grateful. And so, it's always like, hey, thank you for cooking dinner, or man, that was delicious. I'm always trying to make those sorts of comments to her. But when this stuff comes up, she doesn't, like, she'll disagree with me that I do give her that sort of. But another thing is, I noticed, like, my wife's really a really great cook, and I know this is like a weird stereotypical thing to praise a wife about, but God damn it, she's a good cook, man. She's worked on it hard over the years. She's gotten nothing but better. She's experimental. She's great. Everything I eat that she makes is fucking fantastic. So whatever. When somebody other than me praises her for her cooking, she glows. It means so much to her. She loves being recognized for it because she works hard at it. And it seems to me that when I say it, she doesn't even hear it. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Can I? I don't want to. The last thing I'd want to do is sort of be hurtful or anything, but can I just chuck something in the mix here?
Please.
So if you say to your wife that tasted really good, yeah, to you that sounds like you're praising her. That tasted really good.
Yeah.
If you boil it down to what you've actually just said there, you're just making a statement that the food tasted good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I see what you're saying.
I'm trying not to be picky here, but that's not really praise. You're just saying that the food tasted good.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I didn't include her in that praise. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The next time somebody praises her about her cooking or whatever, and you see her glow, maybe use that as an opportunity to see what exactly was it the person said.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that would make any difference. That might not make any difference because sometimes there's this familiarity that comes with relationships, isn't it? Where it's different when it's somebody else outside saying something.
Which is what I sort of took it to be. But you're right. I mean, being able to communicate, like, you know, that book, Men Are From Mars, what is it? Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus or whatever.
That's
like,
the one.
There's something really true about that. It's difficult to communicate between the sexes because we don't do it the same.
We don't do
and
it the same,
that's the point is well made, Daniel. It could very well be.
I feel very blessed with Mariella because, like I say, we've been doing this decorating, and it's nearly killed me. I mean, I've painted my ceiling 6 times to try and get it right, and it still isn't right. You know?
Yeah.
I put some coving up, some cornicing up, and it wasn't right. It was terrible the first time, and I demolished it all and did it again, and now it's really good.
Good.
But she doesn't just say, "Oh, that coving looks good." It does look good. I know it looks good, and it's nice to hear the confirmation. But she says things like, "Thank you so much for working so hard at that when I know that you're in pain with your back and you're really tired and you've got other things to do."
Yeah.
That means
what a compliment. That's a great one, man.
So much more than your coving's good. Because I know the coving's good. I bloody did it 3 times to make it good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that personal touch. And that, I think, comes back to my childhood experience of I don't just want to be told that what I've accomplished was good. I want the praise to touch my character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hardworking, loving, making an effort. They're the things that matter, not so much it's a brilliant job.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. It's not often we're speechless, is it?
What else, Kyle? What else?
I don't know. I do think that what am I trying to say here? I definitely don't. When somebody compliments me like that, it's nice, but at the end of the day, I don't really care, you know? Like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I wish that I was and that I did.
Yeah.
And, hopefully I will someday, and maybe I'll understand better what you're talking about. But what's that? Oh, I thought Daniel said something. There's like an echo or something. But I mean, I have had serious relationships, and I'm kind of in a relationship at the moment. It's like, it's still becoming what it's going to become. But I do get compliments like that, and it's mostly about me, like being a leader, like me choosing the direction of how we go about things and how we think about things, and like our, like ethical, the way we behave in the world, the way that we want the world to be. Like when we do have kids, how we want to raise those kids, the moral standards and whatnot. Like I'm in charge of choosing that stuff. But to compare it to something that I have more experience with, because like I said, I'm not married yet, and this is still stuff that is kind of in its infancy with me. Well, I'll just compare it to work. Like I'm learning to weld, I'm learning to do metal fabrication, and it's nice when my boss, and I get compliments from my bosses, like they tell me I do a good job pretty frequently, but it just like, I don't know, it just like doesn't mean that much to me. Like what means more to me is the fact that I'm not getting fired, or if I'm getting raises, or if I'm getting promotions, things like that. Like the compliment doesn't really mean that much to me,
Yeah.
So I think that's it's just like one way in which I'm like just different.
Yeah.
That ties
that
ties in with a little thought I had. I wanted to just run past you, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
What would happen, right? So, just a thought experiment. If I told everybody that I know, I don't ever want you to praise me ever again. Don't ever tell me anything that I'm good at or that you think's commendable about me. Only point out to me my weaknesses. Would I thrive, or would I die emotionally?
I would die. Yeah. That's not to say that
I would die. Would you die, Kyle? Or would you just not give a damn?
No, I think that I would do fine, honestly. Like,
Wow.
I don't think that would bother me that much. Maybe in like a romantic setting, it would be harder. But I don't know. I think that there's ways in which people praise you and affirm you that aren't like outright saying, "Hey, you're doing a good job," Yeah, I don't know. I think that there are maybe more subtle ways, less direct ways of people telling you that. Like I said, when it comes to, choosing, like, it's a very conservative, like traditional Christian way that the man is the leader, and it's like, if you just trust what I say, that means a lot to me. Don't argue with me. Just let me, don't question me. Don't doubt me. Just trust me. That means a lot. That goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And that's not telling you, hey, you're doing a great job, but that's like demonstrating to you that you're doing a great job.
Absolutely.
So,
but is that then
that kind of stuff goes a long way.
Is that then discouraging criticism? If you say, for me to feel good, just don't question me.
I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
If you take the approach of don't question me, that if you don't question me and just trust me, that kind of makes me feel good without heaping praise on me. That's a great thing. Is that then discouraging criticism?
It's a good question.
I guess it depends. I don't know.
You're not asking for like a blanket. I mean, in that situation, even if it's decided that you are the one making those decisions, that there isn't any instance when criticism is merited and you should hear it. Consider it.
Yeah. I think like it's like you're a team. You're you're kind of weighing the options together, but it's like I think it's a common thing in like male female relations in general. It's like don't like cut your husband down. If he makes a decision, don't like be like you're an idiot. Don't. No man wants that. That like that's the death knell for a lot of.
100%.
That's
the most
very,
emasculating shit.
Yeah, you said, Kyle, that's a very Christian kind of approach to things. It's definitely the approach I grew up with. Being a Jehovah's Witness in the past, we always had this thing: the head of the woman was the man, and the head of the man is the Christ, and the head of the Christ is God. There's this sort of chain of authority, even.
Yeah.
And that when it came to marriage, the husband was the head of the house, and the wife could have an opinion, and the man would listen to the opinion and take that on board. But ultimately, the man made the opinion. And if the wife didn't agree with the opinion, she went along with it because she was submissive. That's kind of the approach that I grew up with. I now don't have that framework anymore. I don't have that framework. I'm no longer a Jehovah's Witness. I don't even class myself as a Christian per se. I still value Jesus and I value many of his teachings. But the whole idea that a man is ahead of his wife, the head of his wife, or somehow has some intrinsic authority that she doesn't have, for myself and Mariella, it's a complete equal on every level. And there are some things that I do better than her and some things that she does better than me. It really is teamwork.
Yeah.
But the idea that, I don't know, it's at first it's a little bit, I wouldn't say awkward, but at first it's a little bit disconcerting to not have that framework there anymore. And that, it's even Stevens across the board. And to arrive at a decision, it could seem that it would be quite difficult in that position because you've no longer got a captain of the ship. You've not got a captain and an assistant. You're now bringing equal to the board. How do you arrive at a decision? And for us, it just tends to be, do you like this? No, I don't like that, but I like that. Do you? Yeah, I do. And it's this sort of meeting of minds in the middle somewhere. And decision making between us is really, really easy without any of that Christian baggage that I used to have.
I want to try to steelman Kyle's argument, and you feel free to disagree with me here.
I'm curious to hear it.
So I think what Kyle would say here is that he would agree with you that men and women are different. And there are some things that you'll do better and some things that she'll do better. I think what Kyle would argue is that one of the things that you will do better is making decisions. That the man is meant to and is designed to do that better than a woman. And again, I'm gonna let Kyle dig his grave here. If you disagree, let me know. But I think I
completely disagree with that.
Well, okay, good. I think the easy questions about design, like you're talking about, and compromising and all that, that's fine. But when the shit hits the fan and you have to make a decision now, do you want to allow all of the things that are accoutrements of feminine personality, emotionality being one, you know what I mean? This is like hot water I'm stepping in. But do you want to have some kind of deliberation involved where you're equally weighing both people's opinion, or do you want in that situation to be able to make the decision on your own and expect that your wife is going to support you even if she disagrees? Kyle, you take it from here. No,
I think that you did a fair job of explaining my thought process, at least an aspect of it.
Yeah, an aspect of
it. When Daniel, when you were talking about you guys don't have that kind of dynamic, the first thing that came to my mind is, okay, but if you're both in bed at night and you hear something go boom in the other room and there's people breaking into your house, do you want her to argue with you at that point, or do you want her to let you make the decisions and get it taken care of? Because
there wouldn't
in
even,
a situation like that,
there wouldn't even be that kind of discussion. We would both go together, I think.
you would both go out into the living room and attack the people?
We would both go out together and attack the people, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's definitely not how I would do it.
Her, I would come to the rescue of my queen, and if someone was attacking me, she would come to the rescue of me. It's a total. This is what I was saying earlier. She's not my other half. She's my other whole. It's complete unity on that score. There's no. You can't tell where one ends and the next person begins. And that's without any Christianity or Bible or God or headship or anything else. It just works. And that's
Yeah,
I'm not criticizing by your approach to things, because I think if it works, it works. You know, I'm just saying what our relationship is.
Yeah, no, in that situation, in my relationship, I would say do this, and I would expect her to do what I told her to do, because it's my responsibility to take care of those sorts of things. It's not hers, you know? I don't want her, you know, like in your situation, like if someone was breaking into your house, like, I'm going to go deal with this. You go be with the kids. You go keep the kids safe. You know, that would be my initial, you know, it's like, you go take care of the kids.
I think I would
call the cops.
I think I would do that just from a natural sort of humanity point of view. You know, you stay in bed.
Sure,
don't get killed. I'll go out and attack them, yeah. But I'll tell you now, she wouldn't let me. She'd be right behind me with a baseball bat or whatever.
Yeah, but don't you see how, like, if that was the case, if you said, stay here, I'm going to go deal with this, and she said, no, I'm coming out there, now you have to worry about her. You know, now, like, instead of being business, I need to do something, now you're worried about, oh, God, she's right, but she's right, she won't listen to me, she's right beside me.
I wouldn't be worried, because when I see her, I wouldn't be worried, because I see the strength and the determination and the power and everything that she's got. I wouldn't be worried.
Yeah, I mean, strength, determination, and power only mean so much when you come up against a person with a baseball bat or a gun, you know? Like, all your strength, determination, and power doesn't really amount to much when somebody clubs you over the head, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of, on one point of view, you know, I see Mariella as someone I want to protect, but on the other point of view, I also see someone who doesn't need protecting.
See, I want to come in kind of in the middle here. I want to say that my instincts align with what Kyle just described. My in a situation that's fight or flight, I expect that my wife will listen to what I tell her in that situation. I expect it. That's what I would expect to happen. I would expect her to obey in that situation, and you can take that any way you want. But in a fight or flight situation, I expect that of her. She may disagree with me if she heard me say that, but that's what I think. On the other hand, I also expect my wife to fight like hell to save me. If the situation presented itself, I expect her to defend me. I'm not saying fight for me, but I'm saying if somebody's beating me senseless, you know, and I'm inches away from death, I expect her to throw a chair at this dude's head, you know, like she's my partner, my ride or die. She's somebody who I trust with my life. And I guess I expect her to fight for me the same as I would fight for her, although I wouldn't ask her to do it for me, and I wouldn't ask her to do it first. So I'm kind of in a weird place, maybe in the middle.
I kind of get most of that, but you know, when you said obey, I recoil from that. The idea that
I understand.
The idea that Mariella why should she obey me?
Well, in that particular situation, if it's fight or flight, and I say to her, you know, take the kids to the basement, you know, don't come out until you hear my voice, I expect her to do it right now, no questions.
See, once upon a time, I would have felt like that, and that was purely because of my JW Christian upbringing. I'm the head. What I say goes. But I don't get that now.
I don't think that all in all cases,
alien to me, even a little bit repulsive to me. The idea that I should say do this and she'll do it. That just seems
not
so
in every
alien
situation,
to me.
Daniel.
Yeah, but that's where we differ. Is pretty much in every situation. You know, it's like, I mean, I think that in a situation. Okay, so let's like. You're in a situation where you are the man who goes to work and makes the money so that she can stay home and raise the kids all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's what she wants to be doing, is she wants to be at home being a mother and a wife and a homemaker raising the kids. Okay. I think that, you going out and providing that that entitles you to be the decision maker in a lot of ways. And I do think that it is a Christian thing. But I also think it's been the foundation of the West for a long time, that kind of gender dynamic. And I feel like the further we get away from it, the more shit things have become.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Now he silenced you, Daniel.
No. And this is kind of, when we were talking earlier about, loving these sort of debates where you can disagree. And have a reason for disagreeing. These are the sort of things like, I'm going to sit here now and say I completely disagree with that. So much I disagree with that. The idea that going out to earn a living somehow entitles you to make decisions. To me, that just seems so alien now. Once upon a time it didn't, but it does now, because I would then argue that, the wife that is at home raising the kids, is that not, equally, a job that comes, if you're going to apply that principle of entitlement.
Yep.
I think men and women are different. Clearly you're different. We're different,
Yes.
I think that is completely different than equality when it comes to rights and entitlements and abilities. I mean, my fiance, Beyonce, who's going to be my wife in October, the skills and the talents and the abilities that she's got. I mean, she would actually, I think she would say that I'm better at being decisive in our relationship. Mm-hmm. When it comes down to it, I'm kind of, let's do it, but I'm definitely not the decision maker, and neither is she.
Well, let me ask you, go ahead, sir.
Who is then?
Both of us together.
But what if you don't agree?
We will either concede because we love each other enough to say, look, I don't really like that, but I know you love it, so let's do it. Or it will be, we don't agree, neither of us are going to be happy, let's not do it.
So if I could steal man Kyle's position again, I would say, and because I honestly feel this way, I feel that I am a servant. That is the title that best describes me. I'm a servant. And I'm a servant above all to my wife and children. And I honestly believe that. I am a servant. So if I am putting myself in Kyle's shoes, and I feel that way, and I am also the man and making all of the decisions. Now, I'm not going to go quite so far as that, but let's just go with that for now. Then every decision I make is first and foremost aimed at the benefit of my wife and children. So it's not like I'm going to dominate you. It's not that I want a slave. In fact, I am the slave. And I honestly feel that way. So the decisions that I would make as the head of the house are to serve my wife and my children. So how do you feel about that positioning of the argument?
I totally see that. I can totally see that. it feels to me like we've got three opinions here. It feels like Kyle is sort of over there. It feels like I'm over there.
Way far over to the right.
I'm over there, and you're sort of somewhere in between the two of us. I don't feel like a slave or a servant at all anymore. I used to. Within the Christian arrangement, the JW arrangement, I felt like the one that had to be serving other people all the time. I feel now, and this is going to sound really weird, I almost feel like single in some respects. I feel like me. I feel like I've got this real strong self-identity. I'm here. I'm the center of my universe. The universe is revolving around me. I'm having these experiences. I'm doing stuff that I love. I'm having a fantastic life. And I've got this other person who is so closely blended with me that sometimes it doesn't even feel like a couple. It just feels like,
absolutely.
Does that make it? So I don't feel like a servant or a slave or a dictator. I just feel whole and complete and happy, and I'm not feeling any big need for praise, and the criticism doesn't hurt me. It just feels like I'm experiencing being me. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. I've not got those sort of fragmented. I don't feel like I've got those fragmented things where it's me and another person.
Yeah.
Whether
I definitely understand.
Whether that's me directing another person or asking them to obey me or looking to another person to praise me. I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I feel very complete and whole at the moment.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and I do agree with you. It's like I'm not going to be with a woman who doesn't agree to the situation that I have put forward, you know? If me being the final decision is an issue, then we are not going to be a couple, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But the person that I'm with now, I agree with you. I feel very lined up, you know, and like anything that I'm deciding, like 99.9% of the time, I feel like we're on the same page. I feel like the difference is that on the times where we're not on the same page, I'm making the decision.
And how does she feel about that? Is she happy with that?
Generally, yes. I mean, it hasn't been an issue, you know? So, but again, we're not married yet, but again, we wouldn't even be in the situation that we're in if she wasn't agreeing to be a submissive wife, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Wow.
And all I can say to that is that Daniel brought up the word dictator and servant earlier, and I feel like maybe if you're both, it's okay.
I was thinking that when you were saying that stuff. It's like, yeah, I think it makes sense to be a servant most of the time. But again, when it comes to that point where you don't agree, that's when you become the emperor, you know?
See, I think what I'm probably doing there is I like to serve, but I don't view myself as a servant.
What do you think about this?
More recently, and I don't know where this has come from, but probably just the experiences I've been through over the last few years. The self-esteem has gone up, and I don't know. It's just a really good feeling where I'm at the moment. I want this to carry on.
I do too, man. I can see the smile on your face. I wish that for you, man, for eternity. And
I feel like I've cracked the formula that I've been trying to work on for like 50 years.
That's awesome.
Everything all of a sudden makes sense in my life.
Eureka.
Yeah, you're feeling that as well?
No, I was just commenting on you. It's like that eureka moment, you know, where it's like everything clicks.
Yeah. It's good. Can I just because we're kind of at the 2 hour mark.
Yes.
Can I just? I've got a little question for you, and I've got a little quotation that might just sum things up. And then anything else you just want to add to the discussion, before we finish. But question: how do you accept praise? What's the best way to accept praise? We've talked a lot about criticism, but if someone says you're brilliant, what's the best way of accepting it?
Kyle?
With a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think, like I said before, gratitude is important. So I would return that. I would return that gratitude with more gratitude. I mean, accept it. But to Kyle's point about a grain of salt is important too, because of good old Martin, excuse me.
Yeah. I don't give a shit.
Good old Martin. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got from somebody was when someone praises you, just say, thank you.
Thank you. That's the gratitude I was talking about.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah. A little quotation for you. Abraham Lincoln. We always love Abraham Lincoln, don't we? He said, if the end brings me out all right, what is said against me won't amount to anything. If the end brings me out wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference.
Sounds like judge them by their fruits.
Grain of salt. Love it. There we go.
Yep. As far as concluding remarks, Daniel, I don't have anything except for maybe just to admit that the things we were talking about earlier, rather towards the end here about marriage and roles and all that stuff, it dawned on me that while we were talking, that the things I said about being a servant, that I think I do justify that stance from a Christian perspective, because I see Jesus as having been a servant. I see God, the creator of the cosmos, having been a servant to his creation. And something about that seems right, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, I would say a bit of self-reflection here. I finally have managed to find some self-esteem, but I've just got to be mindful of the fact that I don't go to the other extreme. Yeah.
Yes.
Start walking around thinking I'm God's gift, you know, because I'm not.
No.
What about you, Kyle?
Just to the people from Daniel's audience who don't hear me that often, listen to the Two Tongues podcast. You know, tune in, hear some more of my crazy ideas.
Yeah.
You know, I guess I do have a lot of crazy ideas, but you know, I try to be reasonable about them, as reasonable as possible. But you know, it's hard to go over them all in one podcast. So yeah, tune in.
Yeah.
To anybody who listens to the Onion Unlimited.
I feel like I've got to know you a bit better today, actually, Kyle. Respect to you. Yeah, respect to you. I think that there's something there with the robustness and the balance. I love that. Been lovely talking to you guys again.
Always a good time, Daniel.